Welcome to Triathlon Raceday, the Ironman Pro Series pre-race show. Today, we're headed to Geelong, or if you're from America, it might be pronounced Geelong, for the second stop of the 2026 Ironman Pro Series. After an electric season opener in Taupo, the series rolls on. We got a faster course, new dynamics, different distance, and another massive opportunity to grab some early season points. Before we dive in, if you're joining the show, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps us grow the show and keep bringing you coverage from around the world. Now let's bring in today's panel. Joining us, we got Olympian bent canoe Ironman 70.3 champion Justin Metzler, pro triathlete Evan Price, and our resident guru Blake Pfeiffer. Gentlemen, he's 2 of 17. Geelong is on deck, the infamous Geelong. But first, let's rewind quickly back to New Zealand. Ben, give us a few thoughts on what we saw in Taupo and tell us what you're most excited about Geelong coming up.
I think what I'm most excited about how these races connect is in Ironman New Zealand, we got a lot of people claiming that the swim is less important than it has ever been. And I strongly disagree that we don't have enough data yet to confirm that, because in my opinion, we had one, maybe two swimmers fully, at least in the men's race, to really push the pace. And Kyle Smith went off on his own, led that race for 6-7 hours before succumbing to hamstring cramps. When you start adding in Laidlow, Schomburg's, we got Jelle Geens, the Kristian Blummenfelts when he's not riding with one ski on his aero bars, like we're going to see very different dynamics, and 4, 5, 2 minutes out of the water could be very different. So I'm interested to see how this develops in this race in Geelong, and then as we move further on in the series. And speaking of Ironman New Zealand, let's see, we have a very similar amount of starters from Ironman New Zealand doubling up in Geelong. How's everybody going to pull up? Are we going to see people who went to the well and end up exploding in Geelong? Or are we going to see some real consistent racing and people getting some potentially double wins here?
I like it. Mats, let's kick it to you.
What I was excited about was in Ironman New Zealand was watching Matt Hansen just be an absolute dog late into that race, charging through the field. He almost won the thing. He was only, 2 minutes down. And I was also proud of the Americans, American guys here, American more or less panel. So it was cool to see Trevor and Matt doing their thing, and all those guys battling with such close margins late into the marathon. So that made it for a very exciting watch. And I think as the first stop on the Pro Series, we needed some excitement, and I think Ironman New Zealand delivered. Transitioning into Geelong this weekend, it is going to be interesting to see in 2026, does Ironman dull the legs of some of these superstars? So you look at the Kyle Smiths, you look at Blue. Does Ironman even sting anymore, or can people recover in 2 weeks' time and knock out big 70.3 performances against the likes of some of the top 70.3 racers in the world?
I like it. Evan?
I think looking at the two winners from New Zealand, you're seeing that Kat clearly stamped her authority on the Pro Series. I don't think there's a race that Kat goes into this year where she is not the favorite. She was almost toying with that marathon, so we don't really even know where her marathon fitness is, which I think will be exciting against a more stacked field when she's got to go up against Taylor or once Lucy's healthy, and some of those top hitters in the distance, Solveig obviously. So the big one then is Trevor in a very competitive men's field, just stamped that he is the favorite in the Pro Series right now with that early win. We talked about somebody's going to stumble, the big stumble from Blue. He'll come back. But if Trevor hits in New Zealand like he did and hits in Texas again, he's got a throttle on this Pro Series right now and becomes the house favorite.
All right, Blake, let's round us out. Bring it home.
Nothing makes me happier than a good Kat Matthews victory. And I love seeing short course boys like Pierre Lecour succeed at the iron distance. And big shout out to Kyle Smith for a massive blow up. That was awesome to watch. And ready to see the boys throw some shrimps on the Barbie this weekend.
Leave it to Blake to show some short course love always. Taupo had everything.
It's way better.
Let's go.
I want to hear.
Yeah,
it really did.
I saw you make a face as Evan was talking. I want to hear the rebuttal to whatever Evan was saying.
Oh, I don't know, man. Those that are successful in March are rarely there in October.
I love it. Keep on doubting Trevor. He will prove everybody wrong. I think he's the favorite in Texas.
Will Trevor get a Roca Lucy Charles everybody doubted me commercial about the end of the season?
Please.
We don't know.
All white Roca kit. Everybody
All hard
doubted
work,
him.
no talent, zero talent, baby.
Yeah, exactly. No talent on that guy.
All right, well, Cat Matthews put on an absolute clinic per usual. The broadcast, which I was looking forward to, didn't disappoint. It went right
They
on
stumbled
par
to
as what we
start.
expected.
They stumbled to start, but really Will brought it back pretty well after
No.
missing the men's swim start.
No,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
didn't miss the swim start.
Yeah, they missed
Yeah.
the swim start.
Yeah, they did.
They missed the swim start for both genders. But anyways, it really did have everything. It had run battles. It had blow-ups. It had perfection in terms of Cat Matthews' run form. But real quick, let's go to the standings. Should be pretty straightforward today, considering there's only been one race. Trevor and Kat are looking over the kingdom of triathlon, if you will. I think a notable result here, Matt Hansen, as Big Met said, and then you got a Tamara Jewett in the top 5 right now for the Pro Series standing. What's at stake here, guys? Pro Series, first 70.3. We have 3 slots per gender. Total prize money is $50,000. That's $20,000 per gender, and then it's going to pay 8 deep. So if you're going to crack the top 10 in a Pro Series race and you come in 9th or 10th, you are not getting paid, which is a tough day
That's
in the
crazy.
office for some of these guys.
It's a long
You
way
could
to
run
go if
under
you're going
110
from
and not
America
get
or
paid.
something to, yeah, GB guys. That's brutal. That's brutal racing.
Absolutely brutal. All right, so let's kick it to the course real quick. Blake, what do we got looking for a course like this? Do we have something typical like a beach town Australia? What do we got?
Yeah, I would say that Beachtown, Australia. We got swim in the calm waters of Corio Bay, sheltered, shouldn't be too wavy. And then on the bike we have a 2-lap on open roads, relatively flat with a few rollers, but nothing crazy. And the run is looking like a 2.5-lap park run along the coast, nice ocean breeze, and you get to run through some scenic gardens. So it should be a good day.
Yeah, this is a flat and fast course. Less than 1,000 feet of gain on the bike. Less than 300 feet on the run, maybe give or take. I think it's like 3.5. So super fast course. We're gonna see a typical 70.3 just from start to finish, balls to the wall racing here. Before we jump into the start list, let's kick it to our sponsor.
Triathlon Raceday is brought to you in part by... This episode is brought to you by Grindstone Collection Strategies, because podiums are cool, but direct deposits are better. If your prize money goes MIA or a race organizer is ghosting you, Grindstone is here to chase it down. They specialize in getting businesses paid, and if you're a pro triathlete, they'll do it for free. Zero fees, zero nonsense, just results. Hit up grindstonecollections.com, fill out the contact form, and don't forget to tell them that your friends at On Your Left sent you, because nothing says I'm serious about my money like sending in Grindstone.
All right, let's jump into the start list, guys. We got a late addition to the men's race last night. We got a message that a Hayden Wilde silver medalist will be joining the start list for Geelong. Let's kick it to Blake. Blake, what are some of the storylines you're looking forward to in this start list?
Yeah, I'm just really into Hayden. I think he showed a lot. All right, dude. He just showed a lot last year. A lot coming back from that massive crash. I think broken scapula, ribs, punctured lung, the whole 9 yards, right? To come from winning Abu Dhabi, winning Singapore, taking a huge, massive break throughout the year. And then he goes and sweeps the rest of the T100, right? He goes and wins London. He wins French Riviera. Some hiccups in the WTCSs in French Riviera, Karlovy. Still goes off. Spain wins. Wollongong wins. Dubai wins. Qatar wins, right? He just pops off the whole backside of that season. And I think it's undisputed. He's probably the fastest runner in the game right now. Just absolutely dominant over that middle distance. So I don't know how you would expect anything different coming into Geelong. Like, he's fresh. He hasn't raced aside from New Zealand time trial mats, a couple track races. Like, he's ready to rip.
What do
I
you
think
think would take for a Hayden Wilde to really have like a terrible race, I guess?
I think it would be if he hasn't worked on that swim, but we saw that the swim wasn't a problem last fall, and he's just only going to get better. So why would it be a problem?
So it's clear favorite
right now.
I think there needs to be pressure that's put on Hayden, because I don't think we really saw his full capability in the T100 racing. He pretty much went relatively unchallenged through that entire series. We have Jelle Geens on the start list, who of course is 70.3 world champ, has beaten Hayden at the 70.3 world champs for his first title. who, if we see what happened late in the run with Hayden in the last couple miles when he tried to push, that's probably the only thing that could happen. And you do have Kristian Blummenfelt, who's got amazing recovery ability, even coming off an Ironman, which we know is not digging to the well for him on an off day. So if you have multiple guys like that, plus throwing in a couple of these other guys who either, maybe dropped out of New Zealand early or are starting off their season here, like a Jake Birtwistle, maybe that pressure is what's needed to apply. And usually when you put a bunch of top guys into a pressure cooker and have them all trying to break each other, somebody ends up breaking. It's just a matter of who.
What does everybody's gut say in the back? I think this is a clear Jelle versus Hayden race. I think that that's going to be for the win. I know it's wild to exclude Blue from that top conversation, but I think coming off New Zealand, he might be harboring just enough fatigue to where I do think this is Hayden Jelle. But does anybody have?
I think it's hard to bet again. 2 to 3 weeks after he was in Kona in 2022, and let me tell you, he was a little off there, but he drove that entire bike, dragged us around. Like Magnus didn't go to the front once because of how high the pace was there.
Okay.
And Freddie Funk didn't hit the front once because he drove that whole thing. I think that we would not be doing his career and how he's just done every single race. Like the dude, this has been his first off race pretty much in how long? Has it been over a year, basically, aside from like a mechanical or something? We could probably argue that mechanical, unless it's totally messed up his back or his form somehow, I would venture to guess that he's probably recovered. And even if he's at like 95%, he's still going to push right from the beginning and try and exploit some sort of weakness in there. And he's just too smart to leave off of him I would say we got a top three here. Like the big three are the Hayden, Jelle, and Kristian, all, kind of world champs in their own right.
I think also Blue is coming in a bit angry, right? Like he has something like his aero bar breaking. He's coming in wanting to prove a point that he had an amazing offseason. His VO2 max is 101. He needs results behind that. And I think he's coming in hot. I think also just going back to Hayden quickly, is there a chance that he is just coming into this race a little bit distracted, originally planning to be in the Middle East, and now it's a last-minute adjustment? There's some stress that goes along with that. Also, is there a chance that he just goes to sleep a little bit? Like, unchallenged for the entirety of 2025, he's thinking this is going to be an easy pop-over, easy win. But you got guys like Jelle and Blue coming in hot, ready to roll. I think both of those guys could definitely challenge to take down Hayden in this one.
I mean, I don't think stress is a major factor with Hayden, though, like changing plans and everything. He's a global traveler, right? He's signing autographs in Qatar right up until the swim start. I don't think much gets to him outside of the race course, and I think there's possibilities of getting into his head while you're racing, for sure. I think that's true for anybody, but I don't think you can factor in any of this stuff. He's already in New Zealand, short flight over. There's really not much to it.
Are we undermining Jake Birtwistle? Because didn't he? I'm looking at the results and I don't see it. Didn't he top 5 at St. George in a Pro Series race last year?
Yeah, his run is
he
pretty
also
lethal.
Factored in heavily last year into this race.
And his bike is strong too.
Sorry.
And I think that if we're talking about, is Hayden not prepared for this race? Like, he's preparing for short course, but if you're pushing your upper limit in threshold, like 70.3 is starting to become more and more of a threshold race. And then we also have to, take into account then Jelle, has he really specifically prepared for this race if he's going after Ironman Texas in his Kona slot? And then Kristian is coming in. They all have their own caveats. Maybe the only person, unless Jake is doing some sort of Ironman debut that we might not know about yet, or that, we kind of went under the radar, he might be one of the few guys who's on this start list who hasn't done New Zealand, is fully prepping for a 70.3 and is doing it, really close to home as well. So when I looked at this start list, I kind of picked him as the underdog to break. And it's kind of silly to call Jake Birtwistle an underdog because that guy has some wheels, but like, he's the guy who could potentially break this up, especially if he's in, really good form. And he went on a tear last year and raced like Geelong, Oceanside, St. George, like back to back 70.3s, was up in Vancouver then. And
he did 2 T100s in there as well.
Evan's
he raced
favorite thing is his training block started to wean off a little bit there. He was just doing a racing block and he was still very competitive. So with the Aussie summer, I think Jake could be somebody who is definitely kind of gunning for this podium and maybe even mixing it up for the win. And
I think too, when we're looking at this list, I think the cream of the crop has to, I agree, leaving Blue out's terrible, but right on the outside of it, I think are those two, is Jake and Pierre. I really think, even though I know he's coming off New Zealand, Mets, I agree with you. I think in like 5 to 10 years, we're going to stop the conversation of races too close. I think when these guys train at the level they do, they come into these races and there's a week in between. That's plenty of recovery time for a guy like Blummenfelt. I don't know, man. Some of these high volume guys, I'll actually argue Ben on this. I do think we're going to see in 5 years that there are guys, if they have clicked off 30-hour weeks for 12, 14 weeks in a row, they can race and 2 weeks later produce another A race.
You can race, but if you're missing a couple percent, that's the same process that everybody, if you're going into a Kona or something and you're a few percent off, like when other guys are fully focusing on this and you're coming in a few percent off and it's coming down to the last few miles, I would put money on the guy who did not race an Ironman every single time. I might lose that bet every so often, but Pierre, it doesn't matter how much volume you do. It doesn't matter how much volume you do in there. There is a toll in Ironman take, both physically and like systemically, neurally. Like there's so much fatigue that goes into racing an Ironman, especially if you're struggling through it or digging into the well. So the one thing we don't know is how hard all of these guys raced, and Pierre was in it for the win there for a little while, so we know he ramped it up. So I would say, I don't think that guys are going to come out of an Ironman ever unscathed. They're just going to be racing at a lower percentage of their full potential. And with somebody like Blummenfelt, he just has a very high potential that maybe we don't see that, but he could be racing at a 90-95% still capable of a win. So I strongly disagree.
What was the gap between Nice and Mallorca? What was the gap between Nice and Mallorca last year? Was that 4 weeks or 3 weeks?
Mallorca. Yeah. It was a
Marbella.
bit more.
Marbella, my bad.
Sorry. Yeah, that was
for
it was like 6-7 weeks.
2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, the women's was close. The women's was.
I think the big question mark here will be around how deeply did Pierre Lecour go, because he seemed really in control, but as a first Ironman, I mean, someone like Kristian Blummenfelt, you know, he's doing 180 grams of carb per hour. He's jogging more or less the remainder of the marathon. He's going to be able to recover pretty quickly. I think Pierre Lecour maybe dug himself to try to win the race. He was trying to catch up to Trevor. He was trying to battle Matt Hansen. That's a bigger dig than somebody like Blue.
And I'll say, not to get ahead of ourselves. Oh, sorry. But I was just going to say, not to get ahead of ourselves, but it's a different story if you're talking about even someone like Kat, who had full control of that Ironman the entire time. Maybe didn't dig for that win, versus some of these other guys like racing for Kona slots and that sort of thing.
I was going to echo exactly what Metz said. I think it's his first freaking Ironman. You don't even know what's going to happen after that race until you've done it. And the fact that he tried to was closing that gap, found his limit, and then had to drop back again. You know, he went to the well at some point in that race, if not the last 5-10 Ks, you know, and that's just like mentally is exhausting.
I'll play 1 against 5 on this. I think Pierre Lecour still is top 5 in this race and factors in all day. I think he shows that.
I don't disagree either. His talent is worth that 100%. I think we're talking about winning here.
Out here. I know. And that's what I think we're going to find out here, is that Pierre is world class. I think across all distances, I think is what we're going to see.
Going back to my point earlier, I think if New Zealand doesn't happen, then yes, that's more of the case. And considering half of those other guys, you know, Henrik Gooch, Blummenfelt, you know, these guys also race with him. Yes, it does even things out, but I also feel like it gives an opportunity for these other guys who are accustomed to coming top 10, top 8 in their region, and gives them another motivation. And a guy that I like, because he's tall, he played Australian football, he's got a good story, is Jared Osborne. I mean, the guy is pretty consistent in region. He's an athlete and he's super tall. So I think when you kind of can see the gaps in abilities, did I mention he was tall? When you see the gaps in abilities, though, I feel like that opens it up for people like this for their time and for their chance to make some noise.
Nothing like a 49th at 70.3 Worlds to really put him at the top of this.
Connor brings up a good point, and this goes back to the Ironman fatigue. Like, you know, there's a fatigue that the whole season plays, and you get that from racing hard races like the Pro Series. So that was part of our first episode where we were talking about who's going to race too much, too early, or too often, and how is that going to take it out of them. for the big dance in Kona. Well, that was our first effort right there. There's a little something taken out of people, and this is the next little something. So if Blummenfelt is at 97%, and that gives somebody an open window to exploit that, it's just how hard do you have to push in this race to actually crack them at a 97% or 95?
Let's work down the list then actually on who raced. So Kyle Smith and Rasmus, two other guys who blew up on the marathon, but like, how do they factor? I mean, these are big names too.
I think Rasmus is slightly different than Kyle Smith was a proper blow up. And I don't really know how that's going to
blow up.
Yeah. Well, am I wrong? Like he went from leading the race to crawling in 11th.
Yeah, I just had muscle cramping.
So I want to throw it to the more experienced Ironman athletes. But what does that actually take out of you compared to a normal Ironman, which already takes a lot out of you?
Kyle Smith was reminding me a lot of myself, Lake Placid 2022, with a big lead and a massive blow up and cramping. And
how
I
bad
know
were you
that
after that.
I was. You get so sore from those cramps. I remember being really sore, but I will say 13 days after that, I was second at Boulder 70.3. So you can, if you just train it right and you don't train a lot, and Kyle Smith getting advised by Dan Lorang, they're not going to do a lot of training. He's going to do a lot of active recovery. He'll have resources to get plenty of treatment. Like Kyle, I think, can back it up. But I think he'll also be.
I was going to say, what was the start list at Boulder 70.3? Was it a Geelong where we have three world
It's still a good. It's still a good. I think we're talking more about being able to access a high percentage of what your preparation was. We're not I'm not talking about the level being super high, but I was able to race well. You know what I mean? It's not like I was not able to function.
So
I think.
Would you say what percent?
It's 2 weeks to Boulder is similar to New Zealand to Geelong.
It's not.
Yeah, like what was the percent you would say you were racing at? They're like numbers wise, because Boulder is a special case because you're at altitude too, so you're racing a lower percentage of, and you live there, so it's different. You're used to the altitude and everything. Yeah. But would you say in that race comparatively, even if you do like an altitude adjustment, was that maybe a lower numbers race at a 70.3 than like?
Yeah, I mean, output wise, you're looking at altitude taking a couple percentages off, right? So like Boulder 70.3 is going to have more of an Ironman pace output than it might be at a normal 70.3. You're not going to be required to run a 110 70.3 off the bike. So that might hurt Kyle if he's mechanically a little bit dinged up from those cramps. What I'm saying is if you are really fit coming in and you rest adequately after an Ironman, he's probably going to be fine.
13 days is fine.
I think it's fine.
Oh, it is 13 days. It is 2
weeks.
And
it might even be a little bit more because it's Saturday to Sunday. It's like 15. So
that actually does
matter on this.
Well, the other thing,
Evan also.
Sorry, Ben.
Oh, sorry. I mean, Evan also said Kristian Blummenfelt's not going to be a factor in this race because of Ironman New Zealand, because of these other two guys. But then he's saying big volume guys are not going to. Like at the same time,
I didn't say he's not going to be a factor.
You said that he's not going to be in it for the win because he's going to be tired from Ironman New Zealand. But a big volume guy, it's not going to hurt him.
Jelle and Hayden, who are the best at this distance.
Yeah,
so there's actually
don't try.
Right, so you're saying it takes a percentage.
Let's bring it in. We're getting off the rails here. I think
we got to go down this list of Oceania boys.
Yeah. I think this is dissolved too, that there are definitely a couple tiers, echelon of athletes here, and it seems that the fresh ones are projected to do better. And when I say fresh, I mean Jelle and Hayden.
How fresh is like
is there anything else?
Henrik? How fresh is like a Gauche? Some of these guys are like, I'll say like I've slogged my way through my fair share of marathons here at the end of an Ironman, and you can, potentially recover a bit faster there without that faster run pace. But like even someone like a Hamilton, a Gauche, and those guys who didn't finish the race, how much did that actually, was that just a hard weekend of training that's actually going to be a good stimulus for this race? And are we going to see more of some of those better races that Henrik has had kind of in the last year or so?
I think we got some faster runners down the list though that are going to make some noise. I think if you've got a lot of these Oceania guys are who I'm betting on over somebody coming over and who just raced New Zealand.
And to everybody's point, I feel like you signed up knowing what you were getting into here. You knew it was going to be a double like this. So I think these guys are going to come fresh. Is there any other points anybody wants to make before we move into the women's, Blake?
So I wanted to rattle off on Josh Ferris real quick. I think he's coming in very underrated, third at Challenge Serbani-Yas behind Schomburg and LaCour, right? And I know it wasn't maybe the most accurate course, but I still really love that result. And it shows that he's on par with these faster guys over the middle distance, very well rested. That was end of January, and now we're looking at mid-March for another race. So he's got another good block in under him. So I would say.
So are you saying Josh Ferris is the name, if you don't know, you should know on the start list?
I mean, I think if there's some blowups towards those top guys, I don't see why he's not within top 5, maybe in the money as well.
You love shouting out Serbani-Yas. I think you just like to say Serbani-Yas.
It's a good race.
You say it at
He's
least
mentioned
twice an episode.
Serbani-Yas so many times.
Well, it's a good indicator for the start of the season, and I don't know why you guys are discounting it. It was a stacked race.
Well, I'm just saying, as an observation, there's a direct correlation between you and Serbani-Yas.
I think that's
anybody else have anything?
a good call. What about like a Mitch Kibbe or something like that, like fourth there? Was that like 1 or 2 years ago? Is that again another?
He DNF'd New Zealand.
Oh, he did DNF.
So DNF.
Yeah, I don't know how far into the race he makes it. He's always a good hitter in Oceania races. I mean, he's coming off a 5th at Western Oz in December. But yeah, I don't know what a DNF in New Zealand does for you if he's coming in compromised, injured, something like that.
I don't know why he DNF'd.
Yeah, I didn't get the full story on him.
All right. Anything else, guys?
I got one down the start list here. We got Nick Free as well, who hasn't been talked about quite yet. I raced him last year in Shanghai. Not obviously the most competitive race in the world, but he was strong. And I felt like I did some training with him before the race, and he pretty much had nothing together. Like he was on a rim brake cube, clincher tires, and just following him on social media, it seems like he is getting his act together in 2026, taking things a little bit more seriously. He's also young, and he was just, I believe, 3rd at the Hell of the West triathlon in Australia. So, again, not a super stacked race. He tends to try and find races where he can get on podiums, but he might be one to factor into the top 5. Final closing point for myself here as well. Now, off the heels of talking about the DNFs, I'm also really curious to just figure out who's in the DNF files, who's going double DNF, New Zealand, Geelong, and who is down bad and in their fields.
Put my money on
starting 2026, because that I've been there. That hurts. And so I'm really curious to see who's the double DNF to start the season.
That's a funny Instagram post. We should do like a check-in on so-and-so. Yeah, whoever double DNF, just send them a DM.
Now, before we move on, I need to talk about the most important person in this race. Last year, we brought up 8th place in Geelong a lot. Now, let's be honest. I think we kind of forgot who was actually 8th in Geelong. The man is in this race. His name is Kurt McDonald, and I'm going to throw him a big bone. 8th in Geelong last year was a no-joke result. This was a stacked race last year. Right on the heels of Braden Curry, and we talk about the Osbornes. He beat Jared Osborne, beat Ben Hamilton, beat the Goosh, beat Henrique, beat Mitch Kibbe. He sat 8th in that field off of a 2-hour flat bike. He bikes or swims with that front group, and the guy can still run. Now, he's not going to run he's a 112 range guy, which I know he's not going to be maybe a top 5 threat, but I'm thinking 5 to 8 in this field. Do not be surprised if Kurt McDonald slips in there. Nobody will talk about him. He's just going to slip through. But this guy he's going to be at the front of the race or near the front for a long time out there, and might be able to work with a guy like Kyle Smith even for a little bit before Kyle decides to bite the house down.
Blake,
if my notes are correct, I think that's about 16 to 17 guys Evan has in the top 8 of this race. I wanted to do another big shout out for Sazinski coming in 10th in New Zealand as well. He's had a stellar run so far, coming off a 7th at Western Oz as well. I think the 10th in New Zealand was a big result for him, so I hope he can carry some of that momentum. And then Trent Thorpe as well, not a super high world ranking, but 8th at Serbani-Yas. He swam with Schomburg, Stapley, some of those faster swimmers, held it together with a 67-minute run. So I think, if he's on, he could be doing some special things as well.
Who measured that course?
Yeah, dude, it was a non-American
course. Who measured that?
It's probably 110. Yeah.
My final question of this is, we talk about run times all the time now. When we've looked at T100, because of the talk about 20-meter rule, sometimes those run times are a little bit slower than we've seen. Yep. So 112, I think what we saw in New Zealand was those marathon times were very good, a 2:35 is nothing to scoff at. I think we all kind of expected somebody to run, Kristian Blummenfelt, maybe a couple others, maybe a little closer to 2:30 than we saw. Like Hansen, I think, was the fastest at 2:34. So my question is 112, if you're a solid 112 guy, but it doesn't fatigue you as much because you've always been a hard rider, is that good enough to keep yourself in? Does it take a little spice out of some of these super runners' legs? And I mean, we're talking about some of the best cyclists in the sport too, in Jelle, Kristian, and Hayden. But I think we might have to start shifting our mind a little bit in run times with how some of these bikes might go, because we know the bikes have gotten faster and faster, but now at the 20 meters, I think we'll see time stay relatively similar, but what it takes out of your legs is going to be a little different. So that's going to be something interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think I'm a strong believer, if it's a half marathon outside of North America, you got to add 2 minutes to get a North American correlation time. All right, so that is the men's race, guys. A little shade there to my international fans. Let's throw it to our sponsor before we break down the women's race.
Triathlon Raceday is brought to you in part by, this episode is brought to you by Texas Grassland Beef, a family-owned and operated ranch delivering high-quality, 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef straight to your door. Their cattle are raised the right way. No hormones, no antibiotics, and a focus on real nutrition to support both performance and everyday health. Whether you're training for your next race or simply want better food for your family, they ship premium bulk beef nationwide. It's convenient, clean, and sourced directly from the ranch. Head to txgrasslandbeef.com, that's txgrasslandbeef.com, to learn more and upgrade the way you fuel.
All right, guys, let's get into the women's race here. Similar to the men's, we got a bunch of people doing the double here. It's almost like a deja vu. Who wants to kick us off?
I'll kick things off here. So I'm curious to see what happens with Imogen in this race. I believe she only raced one time last year. I think that she has been acquitted of all of her situation, and so she's free to race and good to go here. And I'm curious. I think she's someone who left off with multiple podiums at high level races, a podium at a world championship. She has 2 or 3 on her results sheet, and I think that coming off the fatigue of New Zealand, she's somebody who is a threat for the podium, if not the win.
Does she come with a little extra attitude at a race like this, coming off what happened last year?
She had her only race last year. I mean, if anybody still remember, what was the T100 Qatar, right? She was, at the bottom of the field, she was 17th. So I wonder if that kind of lit a fire for her.
There's also sport finishers.
They were 24.
She's probably been emotionally drained as well from the entirety of 2025, right? Like, that seemed like an expensive process, a draining process. My guess as well is if that were me, it's tough to train, right? Like, you don't have a goal. You don't know what you're doing. You're maybe maintaining with aerobic training, but you're not specific on the preparation. I think once she had the green light to prepare and get ready for 2026, she probably said, all right, come Jan 1, I'm locking in on race preparation, and she's on a level playing field with everybody else at that point. So if she's had a normal build up into 2026, I could see her being in proper form starting at this race in Geelong.
If she's even a shadow of what she was in 2024, she'll be in this field, I think, very much competing for the podium.
I think if we want to kick it to another girl that is coming in fresh as well, Grace Theck. This will be her debut race of 2026. She's already podiumed here last year. She was 3rd and then rattled off a bunch of decent T100 results, especially a 2nd at Challenge Roth, I believe, on her Ironman debut. So I really do think she's one to watch, and maybe in a field of tired legs could back up that podium from last year and get another one.
She had the best run last year in Geelong as well. She ran 118.
I think like the question, sorry, Ben, I just saw that you raised your hand. I think that the biggest question here is, we know Kat is that extra caliber. Does that New Zealand kind of even Kat out into a Gabrielle Lumpkis or a Nina Darin category, or is she still, you think, a head and shoulders athlete above the rest of the field?
That was going to be my point. Is I was going to ask, how do you beat Kat? Like, what is the process? Who does everybody have to gang up on her? Like, what has to be done for Kat to not win this race? Because I just think with how in control she was, I mean, let's not forget, we didn't mention this at all. She ran a K or two with Trevor Foley in that race. Like, she was not going her full
just
speed.
for
Like,
shits
Trevor,
and giggles.
She dropped Trevor for a moment there, like through an aid station and stuff. So she seemed to have been feeling pretty sprightly during that marathon. And this is the beginning. She's not at full strength, according to what her and Mark are saying about her, like, training and everything. So if that's it right here, like, I think she's probably the scariest person for anybody on any start list, because it's just, how do you go about taking someone like her down who might not be in full strength at the beginning of the season, but, you know, sets a course record by over 10 minutes and seems to do it without going to the well, knowing that she has to race Geelong, Oceanside, Texas. So that's just where, when you look at this start list, like, where do you attack her? Are there any swimmers who can push far ahead? I would say Tamara Jewett would be somebody who could potentially challenge her on the run, but coming off of her marathon in New Zealand, I think that would be a really tough double to do, with her running all the way up. Like, I think it was it into fourth that she ran to, or close to that, where 2:42 for the marathon, like, what sort of caliber you need? Somebody with, like, something special in the swim, bike, and run, I think, to try and put her under pressure, and it's not really easy to do that.
Yeah, I would say in this field, just because of so Tamara's done a similar, like, close back-to-back before, but she hasn't done an Ironman 2 a 73 this close. She's done a 73-2 an Ironman. Last year it was Oceanside to Texas, I believe she did, and performed well in both. But Kat's proven this again and again. So I don't know. I mean, I completely agree with you, Ben. It's like, how does Kat lose? I just don't know who in the world can actually, like, Taylor Knibb really is the only person I think right now that Kat maybe in the back of her head is, like, constantly thinking about or nervous about. I just don't think there's anybody else who can go with her.
Yeah, I think it depends what distance you're looking at. I think if you're looking at Pro Series, I'm in agreement that somebody like Knibb. I do think you have to give Lucy Charles the credit, just coming off of a Kona victory.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, I think similar to what I was talking about with Blue in the New Zealand episode is, who can take down Blue? Who can take down Kat? So if there's an issue, like she has an injury out there on course, which we've alluded to in the previous episode, with maybe an intra-race injury coming off the fatigue from an Ironman, it doesn't seem like she ever has mechanical problems. Doesn't seem like she ever has nutritional issues. So I really think it could only be a slight injury to herself to have any chink in the armor for Geelong.
I think you saw that at Worlds, 70.3 Worlds. The only thing that really does stop her is her own body, if she's got an injury going into it. So we don't know if she could have picked something up in New Zealand, calf struggles in the past. But when she's healthy, when's the last time she was even put to the fire in a 70.3? She walked away with Swansea and Zell MC last year, without really much conflict. And that was 2 Pro Series races as well, where she picked up her perfect scores.
Yeah, that is a great point. And I got to give credit to Evan. I listened back on the show last week. You said Kat's going to run at 250. She ran at 251. you kind of nailed that.
I'm just going to bottle up New Zealand, because I'm just going to have terrible takes the rest of the year. But just remember New Zealand, everyone.
That was a good call.
She definitely pulled up.
Yeah. So what do you think she was capable of there, just seeing how she ran with Trevor, who was on 235?
245.
Like,
245 is what I think she's capable of.
Yeah.
She looked so comfortable. And I think that run with Trevor, you guys might have already mentioned this, but I was thinking this in my head. They talked to each other a little bit. I think Trevor knew Pierre and Matt were, like, hunting him down. Kat, what an awesome. Kat is, like, the ultimate racer. Like, in that race, she could be jogging at that point. I think she actually told Trevor, let me, like, pace you for a bit. Like, what an awesome person. Can you, like, Trevor needs to, like, throw her $1,000 of that prize purse.
How does
Ironman
that
was a
feel about
crucial
that?
part of the race too.
Coaches are
so
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
So when that happened, Ben texted me, I think she's running with Trevor, and I think she's pacing Trevor.
Yeah.
And then Ben, I think you said the same thing, and you said something like, "How is that allowed?" And I was like,
"No rule against it. They're in the same. They're both on course."
There were other professional men, women who obviously Kat and Trevor are not a couple or anything, but there have been in the past those sorts of relationships where the guy drops back and helps pace the woman a little bit. Now this was vice
Justin.
versa, a woman pacing a man, but I'm just saying, I thought that was a very interesting dynamic I thought it was a very interesting dynamic there because of course, like coaches no, but we are in like other athletes can help other athletes on the course with a flat tire and you could get assistance from them. So I thought that was like really pretty an interesting thing. And the fact that, even if Trevor's on his last lap and Kat's on her second or third, like for her to still have the legs to run, so with somebody who's running a, 15-minute faster marathon than her at the time, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you would assume Mark is in Kat's ear too because he's all over the course. So I'm sure Kat was relaying something, or even people on the course relaying that to Trevor. But I think for sure she was pacing him there, which was really funny. But it is interesting, like, the big argument is the men impeding on the women's race. And I think for once we saw the woman impeding on the men's race.
Yeah, good for Kat. Good for Kat, cause I can't wait for somebody at the next Pro Series panel to actually bring that up. Good on Kat.
Pierre is going to be there in the background in Geelong going, can we have like females chasing the men not be allowed in this race?
I want to hear a French accent, Ben. Do it again.
Yeah.
One more time, Ben.
No, that was not.
Give us your deep French accent,
that
please.
was going to be absolutely canceled. I'm not doing my French accent.
All right. Is there any other names on this? I mean, it's pretty international, the star list. We got an Irish female on here. Shout out.
We do.
Megan
yeah.
Amadage.
I can
Blake,
take her.
Go talk about the Irish athlete because there's somebody I want to talk about down the list too after that.
Yeah, I love a good pro cyclist in the start list. Former EF pro, raced the Paris Olympics road race for Ireland and then switched over, I believe, last year to pro triathlon. Her swim is evidently not the strongest, but she can actually run. She ran a 1:16 in San Remo, which was her fastest split, but that was, we all know, 1K at least short, maybe more. Maybe even a mile short, honestly. But she's a really, really strong bike runner, had good results in super tough bike courses like Mallorca, San Remo, Nice was top 10. So I don't know if she's maybe one to watch for in the money spots or a top 10, but I think she could be up and around there, or at least influencing the race from further back out of the water and riding.
So going to Gabrielle Lundqvist too, who I think is an American we don't talk enough about.
Yeah.
Now I've never met her, but I know that, I mean, she races, she's very well traveled as a racer for sure. And then mixed into this race last year, she was 6th last year in Geelong, almost our 8th place, close. She was ballpark around there, but swam pretty well. She swam only, I think it was almost less than a minute off Van Codre, the woman who won, Natalie Van Codre. Coverden. Thank you, Van Coverden. But pretty strong on the bike, 2:19, and then ran a 1:26. So I think she's very well traveled. She races well in Oceania. She'll probably be battling for money spots in this field. I think
she's been down there too. I think training. So she's acclimated.
Yeah. I think it's just a name that hopefully we start bringing up a bit more because I think she's stacking enough results that we should start talking about her more.
You're absolutely right. And
she's
I said
very
that
consistent across all three. Too. She really doesn't have like she's a good swimmer, but not like she's really solid.
Okay, so there you go. On the men's list, you have a Nicholas Free, who is a name that you should know, or Josh Ferris rather, that Blake brought up, and then for the women's, Gabrielle Lundqvist. Blake, go.
We need to shout out our. We have the 8th place last year at Geelong. The women, Paige Cranage, I believe. Big shout out to her for finishing 8th. And another one, Charlotte McShane, short course girl, WTCS in 2024, switched over.
Yeah,
very fast swim biker.
Paige Cranage, 8th at Geelong. Sorry.
I was going to say McShane, I think, is somebody, if she can get herself to the run in one piece, relatively close, like she's always had some wheels at the WTCS circuit. So if she can put together a solid half marathon there, like that's always a threat, especially at some of these races where if you're trying to race Kat's in the race, if you're trying to race her, you go above and beyond and there's some blowups. Like the runners, like we see it with Jewett all the time, who if they can come back in and have some good legs, like they can really take down some places.
She's been around for a very long time too and has raced. I mean, she was, Ben, back when you were racing short course, McShane was a consistent ITU racer, right? At that time?
Yeah, she would run with Gwen Jorgensen all the time. She was on that same Jamie Turner crew doing workouts with Gwen.
That's where the McShane.
Established,
Great
like
athlete.
really good runner. Had some really good results too. Like I think it was WTCS podiums. I want to say on a U23 Worlds podium, if not U23 World Champion. I would have to fact check myself on that, but she had a very good short course career. And I think just within the last year or two has kind of shifted to like halves. And I think starting with some fulls now as well.
Yeah. Her debut was actually Geelong last year in the 70.3, I believe.
Wow.
Awesome.
I mean, this is so serendipitous. She is, Miss Paige Cranage, going back to her, she is Miss 8th place, 8th Geelong, 8th Sunshine Coast, and 8th at Langkawi.
8th,
Stacking up $500 at a time. Respect that.
Yeah,
Get paid.
8th place. All right, guys, is there anybody else on this women's start list that we should mention?
I think Penny Slater is another
that was enough.
name I want to bring up because, I mean, Penny now I might get the year wrong here. Was it 2023 when she had her good race in Kona? Was that the year? And then I know, had a really rough, like, I think injury-related, medical-related issues going through a year. It was either 2023 or 2024. I need to look back at her results. Blake, fact check me on that.
Kona would have been 2023 for women.
23. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're right. So that answers that question. So I hope this season she's coming kind of back into her own because she showed she's a great biker. Like, she is such a strong cyclist, an okay swimmer, but she really can bike through the field. And we're just going to have to see where her run lies. But I think she'll be somebody else who can be battling through a Pro Series field like this for those top 10 slots on her best form.
And then I was just going to mention, I think just to Milan Agnew, the significant other to Sam Laidlow, obviously getting some insider info, some good tips and tricks from the Ironman world champ himself. So I think they've been based out of there on and off for a while. And I mean, I would, somebody to watch out for at the very least.
Does his dad coach her?
That I do not know.
Does
but
Mr.
she's around the
coach her,
Laidlow family enough that I'm sure she's picked up at least a few things. So yeah, we'll see how much that's helped her out and how the training's been good. But I think this is a home race ish for her as well, because she's from Australia. So if she's been based out of there, she's got the Aussie summer on her side, and yeah, that could be interesting.
We'll see. DNF last year, but hopefully turns it around.
You just got to shout out on the show,
do
because then Sam Laidlow won't be angry with us, and maybe he'll play a little bit nicer on the swim, bike, and run as we race him later in the year.
All right, do we have anything else anybody wants to bring up before we close out this women's start list? All right, that's our preview for Ironman 70.3 Geelong. Thanks, Ben, Justin, Evan, and Blake for joining the panel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow along all season as we cover the 2026 Ironman Pro Series for everyone here at Triathlon Race Day. I'm Connor Bollinger, and we will see you on Race Day.